Okay, we're gonna get going. So I'd like to welcome Farouk Mouhtadi from Moov AI, that's based in Montreal. He did a little the Pacific chapter last week on this content. Very interesting. If you have any sort of fears of AI or wondering what AI can do for you, and where you might be able to integrate it, he's got some great info. So I'm just gonna let him have it and tell all. There you go.
One, two, two. Okay, good. Thank you, Terry. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited to be here and talk to you about AI. Just a little introduction here. So I'm Farouk from Moov AI. I've been working with companies across multiple industries that deliver solutions that bridge technology with business outcomes and goals. Today, I'm here to talk to you about agentic AI specifically. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know about ChatGPT, about Claude, about the LLMs and generative AI. And today, the statement that we see at the screen isn't bold. It's actually the reality that we live with the clients that we work with. So agentic AI is ready, but your company isn't. We'll start with the first metric, which is the result of a survey that KPMG conducted. 78% of organizations globally have adopted generative AI. And the question that I would like to ask you to start a bit the ball here, how many of you, first question, have adopted AI or any sort of AI today? Okay. Nice. And follow-up question, how many of you are able to measure a tangible impact of AI in your organization? Okay, we have less hands there. That is normal. 20% of companies have struggled or are struggling to measure the impact of AI that they have introduced within their organization. And that brings me to our own experience. So Moov AI have been delivering solutions since 2018. We go way back to when AI was just machine learning, classic machine learning, and not generative AI or all the buzzwords that we hear today. And end of 2025, we received a request from a US company to develop a agentic platform for more than 100,000 users. At that point, we realized that it was no longer just a hype. It was actually a revolution that was starting. A revolution that started back then also with our CEO not requesting, but kind of strongly suggesting to have agents in our workflows. Since then, the wave has started, and today I'm here to bring to you this wave and what it actually consists of. So why is it a revolution? First of all, because models today can actually execute, as opposed to the interactions that you may have had with ChatGPT, where it is an exchange, a prompt, and then you receive an answer. Today, models can actually execute actions and tasks. In addition to that, whatever business knowledge that your employees have can now be encapsulated or coded in, let's say, competencies or skills. We'll get back to that in a second. And the last one is MCPs. So MCPs is the new way of connecting to your enterprise data solutions. So here we're talking about CRMs, ERPs, or even MES, maintenance execution systems. So as I mentioned, we're no longer talking about having a prompt and receiving an answer. Now agents are autonomous. By autonomous, we have also two additional capabilities, which are automation as well as vibing or vibe coding. Automation, so the agents now can actually execute core tasks within your organization, as opposed to just having employees managing those processes. And the second one, vibe coding, I guess that everyone has heard about vibing recently. It's enabling your people to create their own solutions using natural language. However, a caveat that comes with that is if we have a software developer that actually knows what the structure of a program needs to be, or let's say a code needs to be, we will have a solution that is more scalable, that is more compliant, and that actually works very well. If, let's say, a CEO goes to do the same thing, we may face different outcomes. And I think that's not surprising anybody here. Perfect. Now, making a platform available, that's the easy part. And as we started with today, measuring the impact is the tough part. And why is that? We have two-level implications. The first one is within the organization. The second one is within the market. When it comes to the organization, we're talking about a change of paradigm when it comes to operations. AI can optimize planning, stock management, and also quality control. In addition to that, for product development, where R&D used to take months before, today we have the possibility of skipping that lengthy process and having a product developed within as short as a couple days. Of course, we'll still have to couple it with researching the latest regulations, being up to date, and also come up with the right testing procedures. In addition to that, marketing and sales. Today, we have smaller teams that actually can come up with a marketing strategy, segment the market, and also the pricing strategy. And those teams can outperform bigger departments. And with that comes the culture. As we give more tools and employees have access to data, we need to ensure that the requalification process and also the culture around the usage of AI is actually managed. Now, on the market, consumer agents. Today, we have agents that compare in real time the different products that are available. Clients can actually, with a click of a button or a prompt, have access to multiple vendors, and the fidelity to a brand is no longer the main criteria as we are comparing prices, delays, and also the reliability of the company that we are purchasing products from. In addition to that, new competitors. AI is enabling companies to appear overnight. So we do see companies that didn't exist yesterday, and now we need to compete with them. The pressure on distribution, I don't know if there are distributors, and okay, perfect. So I don't think it's fanciful to say that today we're facing thinner margins and also having competitors on the distribution side that are, let's say, B2C, more B2C, direct to customer shipping. And AI is enabling that. It will keep on empowering that type of companies because they have the capability, I'm sorry, to come up where they're brand in contact with packaging and also given real-time insights. Speaking of real-time supply chain, companies have agents today that can track the weather, can track the raw material price, and that is definitely a competitive advantage that you want to profit on. I'll leave you with that question for now. Think about what are the implications at your company level and also in your specific market segment. Now, why are we talking about agentic AI specifically? The traditional way, or let's say before, how we used to solve problems is by creating specific solutions for each problem. And with that comes the maintenance cost. Are we able to scale the solutions, or do we just have to just shut down the solution that has been working 10 years ago or the last 10 years? But with nowadays conditions, we're no longer able to get the value that we used to get. And that's where the shift comes in place. With agentic, we're talking about one single platform that actually can answer multiple problems at the time and be scalable over time. That is the now. And the core of it is the skill. So I spoke earlier about how the knowledge or the experience of a given employee is trapped in their head. And after 20 years of loyal services, they leave to another company and that knowledge goes with them. This skill gives us the possibility to code a set of actions. It's not going to be an agent by itself. It's not going to replace a person. However, we're able to encapsulate that knowledge within a skill or multiple skills and be able to have a more perennial use of that skill that will still be within the organization even if the person leaves. I think that an image is worth 1,000 words. So we're gonna start with this first image. End of 2024, beginning of 2025, we're talking a lot about agents. Agents that are owned by specific individuals. So here we have Olivier, we have Bob, and we have another colleague of theirs that have created multiple agents. It allows them to be more productive, execute tasks. However, and as McKinsey CEO said it, they were considered to be additional employees. And we were not moving away from the siloed way of working. That is where agentic AI comes in place, and more specifically, the skills. With the skills, you still have Olivier, you still have Bob, and you still have their colleague. However, all three of them have access to one platform, and through that platform, they can actually leverage the knowledge of Olivier, Bob, and their other colleague. It doesn't stop there. I mentioned the MCPs at the beginning. So with the MCP's connectivity to your enterprise solutions, you're able to leverage your company's knowledge because all of those solutions have the gold, the fuel that actually makes this engine run. And those are the data that you've been gathering for multiple years. But there is a but. Technology is there. However, if you have to bet on something, you always need to bet on your people. And that goes through change management, ensuring that you put in place the right tools so that you drive adoption and you also ensure that you're compliant, that you're not at risk of data breach or any other risks that comes with AI in general. And that's an agentic platform. So as I have mentioned, you need to ensure that you're structured to scale, that your governance framework is in place so that it allows you to ensure that the agentic platform is accessible by the right people at the right timing and for the right purposes. Reliability and security, that's a no-brainer. And the last one is that the business expertise is built in, and that goes through leveraging your existing employees and knowledge. Now, maybe this part will be a little bit more interesting for you because this is a real world use case of one of your competitors, Bella, that went from unplanned downtime to predictive plant intelligence. So Bella's solution that they call the AI Maintenance Doctor has 4 main key features. The first one is real-time monitoring through across 14 of their plants in the US. And that goes back to the first point, which is your solution needs to be scalable because it's at scale that you can actually achieve the best outcomes. Second one, full diagnosis grounded in their fuel or their golden layer, which is the data, 20 years of knowledge that is actually feeding the agentic platform. The concrete example of what you can do is having prescriptive fixes with recommended parts whenever an operator or the maintenance team needs access to that. And the last one is seamless integration with their existing equipment. So yes, they introduced AI, but they leveraged the hardware that was already there, and that goes through sensors and equipment that is in the plant. In the case of Pella, if we want to schematize what we saw earlier, the operators and technicians are on the left side. They have their entry point, which is the agent, and see it as the brain that is actually going to react to the requests of the people that are actually conversing with them. So let's say the technician is questioning why lane 3 is not functioning anymore. The agent is gonna go interact with the first skill, which is the failure troubleshoot, understand what is happening, and then report an incident, come up with a repair checklist, and flag an anomaly. So this is a workflow, but it wouldn't work without having access to their enterprise solutions, which is done through the MCPs and their MES system. In the case of Pella, they were able to reduce by 10,000 hours the machine downtime, and that translates in 30 to 40% reduction in implant downtime across 14 plants in the US. As I mentioned earlier, technology is great. Technology is capable of achieving a lot of things. However, without the humans, it is not going to be a success. Because if you have a solution there but nobody uses it, what outcome are you driving out of that? Are you asking yourself, how can I start? Or is it the solution for me? If that's the case, here's how you can start. Just choose a platform. Pick a domain or a subdomain. Simple. Tie a KPI to it. What goal, outcome you want to achieve. A measurable one that you can validate with your business teams. Then move to the platform. Develop and deploy that platform. Give access to the users. Have your governance in place. Think of it as being a RACI. As you have a RACI for people in your organization, you'll need a RACI for the agentic era. What agents are responsible for what, who has access to what, and so on. And the last one is measure the impact of that solution. Measure it with the people on the field that are using that solution and iterate on that same process. It's going to be easier the more iterations you have because you've already drove adoption and you can embark more people in the boat with you. One last thing I would like to share with you is a study that was done by MIT, a company that partners with external experts when it comes to technology implementation has twice as much chances of succeeding when it comes to implementing it. And that was it for me today.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions?
No? Oh,
Patrick.
Patrick. You can't always count on Patrick.
We've got something. So, can you give me a little more directly how what Pella did led to 10,000 hours in downtime reduction? What was actually happening there?
So in the case of Pella, and even though we didn't work on the solution ourselves, but it's a predictive maintenance problem. Basically, going through the data that they have gathered through the 20 years of operations, they were able to predict when a failure happens based on the parameters that they've gathered. So basically crossing multiple data sources and identifying the parameters that lead to a certain type of failure. And based on that, you can build a bigger model that allows you to, in a timely manner, predict that a fix needs to be done. Otherwise, you'll be having some downtime there.
Predictive maintenance.
Exactly.
Okay. Oh, Dave.
So I read a horror story online recently where somebody let an AI agent loose in their system and it like deleted the entire system. I don't know if that was a made up story or whatever, but you know,
Robots?
yeah, like so are there any risks with agentic AI, you know, running amok somehow, and or are there AI safeguards that can prevent weird shit from happening?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I'll go to the part where, yeah, there you go. That's why we're saying that an agentic platform, like just putting the tools in place and giving access to the users, isn't the right thing to do, because there is a whole new ecosystem that you're introducing to your company. You need to ensure that the connectivity to the data is well secured, that the governance framework is well thought of, and you know, the majority of AI solutions that we see today are how say that, are in cloud. You can also have it in-house, but you have different possibilities to ensure that you have private access and that no other, let's say, third party or external parties can have access to it. And when it comes to the agent, if there's it well there yeah if the agent sandbox is well defined, and that's where the security pillar comes in play, we will avoid these kind of situations. And I think that you're talking about Claude.
I don't remember what it was. It was one of these snippets that you get. You know?
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but it was one of these snippets, and the bottom line is somebody let loose an agent into their system, and the agent said, "This system sucks. I'm just going to delete everything."
I probably missed this because I walked in a little bit late. I'm not entirely clear what you're talking about when you're defining agentic versus whatever other kind of AI. What do you mean by that?
Prompt-based versus autonomous.
Yeah. So for predictive, let's say for predictive maintenance, we would use, like back in 2023, we would use machine learning.
Yeah.
So that's one variant of AI. Then we have generative AI, which basically generates content based on prompts and stuff. Then agentic is based on generative AI as well as machine learning, and it's agents that can actually, on top of having the predictability functionality, they can also execute tasks based on the code that is fed to them.
Okay.
Okay.
So conventional AI, I have heard that it can hallucinate. Are there any risks regarding agentic AI hallucinating? What I mean is that like it makes up things that aren't real, but that sound very plausible based on a large language model, right? So
Mhm.
this is different than a large language model, right? Or like, well, how's it working inside? And then, but I mean, it might be the designers don't know how it's working inside. I've heard that, you know.
Fear and explain.
Oh, I know. But yeah, you know, Terminator movies was back in the 80s, right? And we didn't take our warning.
Learning LLMs. So for this platform, where are you getting the baseline for your LLM? Are you like, or do you have a particular AI, call it background that you're using as the basis, or how much of, call it, the company's information is being fed as the basis for that data? Like it's one of the questions I always have for something like this for specific implementation is what's the archiving look like? Like what data does it have access to so it can create, reliable, clear data?
So, if I understand the question correctly, the concern that the majority of people come with is that we are using, let's say, LLMs from big companies, and they use our data to retrain their LLMs.
Well, actually, no, it's not the retraining. It actually has to do with if you're using some of the large LLMs that already exist,
Mhm.
there is an enormous amount of data that is sitting kind of as the background for informing that AI agent on what it wants to give you as far as an output. But if you don't archive that information correctly, if you don't have an LLM that essentially is based off of, in best case scenario, you would only have exactly what that AI needs in order to give you information for your manufacturing. You would have nothing less. So if you're showing up with information that's relevant to the industry right from the get-go, how does that, how are you managing that information as you're getting things from, Pella or another manufacturer that is specific to what you need them to do?
Okay. Well, the nuance there is that when it comes to agentic platforms in general, we are leveraging the enterprise knowledge. We do use the functionality of LLMs, which is interpreting the natural language. It's been trained on millions and billions of data. However, we orient it in a direction that serves best the company, and that goes through the skills, because we basically don't want to have an outcome that is tailored to another company. We want it to be specific to the industry that you operate within, and your own procedures, as well as regulations and internal compliance constraints. Let's call it that way. So in that case, I wouldn't be worried about the agent leveraging other companies' data. But when it comes to archiving the enterprise data, I agree with that. We need to put a governance framework in place that ensures that the data is stays or resides within the boundaries of our enterprise.
Good enough.
All right. Okay. Oh, couple more. Good. Good. Well, he's doing that, Dave. I was wondering about your paranoia about this. And then it came to me. Open the pod bay doors, Hal. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. What's the problem? I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do. Little paranoia there, buddy.
Thanks for the confidence, Terry.
Yeah.
So there's a journey that we don't know how to start. We can do AI on a very fundamental. We're experimenting with some stuff. It's got some cool gadgets and whatnot. And I'm using the analogy, I've got this TI computer calculator that does calculus and all kinds of graphics, whatnot. And all I want to do is add, subtract, and multiply. So I've got all this power and I don't know where to go with it. Help me, take me through this journey of, okay, so KPIs, what can I start imagining? And then who's going to help me? Because we've talked about bringing a consultant in or some help has twice the success rate. So how do I journey down that, whether it be accounting related, production related, maintenance related, I don't know, engineering related, quotation related? I mean, it just can touch so many facets of our operations. We don't even know where to start.
The easy answer would be pick one and start with that specific team. However, I don't like that answer. Start with your biggest pain point. What is, let's say, if you're worried or concerned more about ROI and, let's say, the revenues at the end of the day, what is costing you a lot today and preventing you from reaching the revenue goals that you have? Based on that, let's say it's, in the case of Pella, it's because they had too much downtime and it resulted in paying penalties because they couldn't deliver on time as well. So we start with the operational, let's say more specifically manufacturing. And starting from that point, you name a champion, a person that is not only willing to work with AI, but also has a good knowledge that will be transferred into the solution that we shape. The solution, like there isn't a, I wish I could say that there is a solution that suits all, but the beauty of AI is that we can actually shape the solution in a way that is customized to you. And on the partnership part, it may seem very complicated, but you can have a first proof of concept, something that actually brings some value within as short as 6 weeks. Did I answer the question?
Close.
Okay.
Yeah.
John asked the same question that I wanted to in a roundabout way, but I wanted to add to that. In your experience, just with the companies that you've consulted with, have you seen a pattern with just new companies that are trying to get into AI and incorporate that into their business, where you've seen, what am I looking for? Success in a certain segment of their business? Has it been in operations? Has it been in sales? Has it been in production downtime? What have you seen so far in your experience?
It really depends. It doesn't depend on the goal or let's say the business units. It really depends on the openness of the leadership to not only invest in technology, but also invest in humans. Because we need both, as I mentioned in the beginning. And at the end, I've seen companies that used AI for operations and were successful. At the same time, other companies were not successful with landing the value that they wanted to land through AI because we didn't have all of the traction that we needed. So I would say have the two tracks working together, the technology and the knowledge that the people have. Also ensure on investing on the culture, because whether you know it or not, I'm pretty sure that within your company, people are using agentic solutions, and that's called shadow AI. But now you have the opportunity of structuring that use and targeting the values, or let's say where it brings the more or the most value to your organization.
So AI, if I understand it correctly, uses history or data, historical data. This isn't my question. How can AI be creative in the future, or how can we be creative in the future using AI if it's based on historical data? And I guess a follow-up to that is, can AI be used to design new products, like futuristic products, not based on what we have? I don't know if that makes sense.
I like the question. So we see it today already that like it's okay. So I'll go back to the essence of AI. So we use the past to predict the future. That's basically what AI is. It's a probabilistic approach. And the thing is that AI gathers the knowledge of so many thousand years, as well as the brain power of billion people. And if you and I are brainstorming together, we'll be able to come up with a better product because there were two brains invested in it. Same thing goes to AI. We're basically using the power of multiple, or let's say millions of brains to come up with an idea that is actually pushing you at least 2 steps further. That's what I would answer to your question.
Just a quick question. I guess, is AI a fad?
Was internet a fad?
I'm just saying we're at peak hype. and there's been a lot of infrastructure that's been built up and has not been utilized, telecom specifically. So is this going to be something where we've hit peak hype and absorption rate will be very slow, or is this just the beginning point and acceleration? Because infrastructure is being built up, capital stocks are going through the roof, spending is happening, but the ROI is not really materializing in the same pace. So is there going to be there's going to be a bottoming out, but does it then go away? I mean, it's a yes or no question, but realistically, I mean, I think I know the answer.
Well, I can still expand on that a bit. I do think that we are nearing a plateau when it comes to AI evolution. We definitely need to ensure that we put the right frameworks in place to control the technology at a certain point. But I don't think in any possible scenario that it will fade away.
Yeah, and that almost answered the question that I was about to ask. Will AI, in your estimation, ever be capable of doing things that are truly creative? I'll give you an example. Let's say a company is not happy with their quotation, order entry, bill of material generation, and enterprise resource management system. It's expensive and it takes a long time to program. Can you unleash AI and have them create whole new systems from scratch?
Like build it using AI, or just have the conceptual?
You'd say, here's what I want. We make windows and doors. Here's the basics of how a window and door is constructed. There needs to be a user interface where they can get a illustration of the window, and enter the specifications. And so then you're going to create that bill of material and price it, right? And then give the quotation. And then it's going to generate the parts for the production system and all of the information for the enterprise resource planning. You know, that, because we're working on a system like this right now and it's taking fucking forever. And I'm like,
Open the
taking
pod
forever.
bay doors. Huh?
You know what I mean? Like, is this going to be obsolete in a few years, right? Because AI is going to allow you to do this stuff much quicker.
So if I may, because I've been involved in a couple 3 ERP setups, and the user inputs are painful and take forever, like you say, and it goes on and on and on, never seems to end. Could you take a, off the shelf ERP system and put in the parameters that you want and have AI build that system out? I don't know.
Well, AI will definitely have a suggested solution. However, what I don't suggest is just unleashing AI and not having a human in the loop, because at the end of the day, the decision needs to come back to a human, and we need to validate if the output that we get from AI is actually valid.
Yeah, but you could potentially have one human, right, who is very knowledgeable about all aspects of the business, asking AI and telling it what to create. Not a team of 20 humans who started 4 years ago and have pushed it out to 2027 for completion.
No comment.
That was pretty much what I was thinking when Dave was talking, because the real, like, the thing AI I think definitely could do is all that user input data, the data input. I mean, it would do that way faster and better. It might still have to be checked over.
Wait, is AI capable of going out into the world and getting all of these, inputs and bring it back and put it into that system that you're trying to build?
Yeah, it would have to be it would be more the process of digging out your internal stuff, I would think, because even that's time consuming, right? And so that's a big one. The one thing I'm still stuck on this agentic word. It sounds like we're talking about decision making in some sense. So at what point is it crossing over into that? Now, I'll give you an example. I was at a Procore conference and they were showing off their AI stuff that they're doing in their construction ERP software. And it was quite amazing. You change, you have this huge commercial project plan. You change one parameter in it. The windows are going to be late. Oh, that never happens. But anyways, and then it updates all of the variables after that, right? It redoes all the billing. It changes all the time, like that sort of thing. But I guess, so my question, how would agentic be better? Is it like where would a decision-making process occur in that? Like, would this be something where you're telling it, I want you to track all my projects and make plans for all the projects or something? Like where's the decision-making come in on the agentic side?
I mean, you have the full control of where you want it to take decisions. But what I'm saying is that usually we don't want AI to take decisions that are critical for the business. Yeah, we want to have it take decisions in low risk points in a workflow, let's say. If we go back to the definition of the skill, where it's a set of action on, let's say, a procedure, the outcome at the end of the day will be consumable by the person that is actually prompting it. In other cases, the decisions would be signals. Let's say AI is in the background. It's actually analyzing data in real time. And given the model that was built, we would see, oh, here we have higher chances of lane 3 not working tomorrow, and we need to take action right away. And the signal would be resurfaced to, let's say, the operator or the technician. Exactly.
Okay, so I've walked away and I've thought about a KPI, and I'm sitting here and I'm looking at Adrian and looking at Dave, and I'm thinking, okay, Jomo just identified that we've got a patchwork code that needs to be patched up. We're going to spend thousands of man hours, volunteer man hours, trying to rewrite this thing, put it back together. So let's find out, let's bring a consultant in that's going to AI help us to rewrite this code. And we will have a group of troubleshooters. Dave can be the king troublemaker on that, and fill it full of holes. And AI can kind of reiterate the code. So that Jomo sits back and says, okay, you know what? That makes sense. It doesn't conflict itself, because we all are sitting here finding conflicts in a patchwork code that we're sitting back and saying, we got to rework this. Why aren't we using AI for it? And help me understand why it couldn't put a better code together than anything we've got out there.
Well, to the
You get like 12 AI agents and they argue with each other. Pit them against each other.
Yeah. Well,
so it can write a code.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can. However,
depends on the agent.
in the same example of
Rights.
a software developer versus a CEO, that doesn't have a technical background.
I do that a lot.
Both solutions could be functioning for,
Explain why.
let's say, 2-3 days or a given time. But the fact that
Really frustrating.
the software developer reviewed the code every step of the way, that actually reduces significantly the chances of that code having any security breaches or not being well structured, or let's say being scalable at the end of the day, because we still see it today and we do develop code using AI solutions. However, the times where a developer didn't review the code and just bluntly trusted what the LLM outputs, it ended up messing up.
Sure, this group is quite capable of reviewing its work and rejigging the parameters.
Mhm.
But we find that the codes get into a complex situation. You can't build what it says you're going to do, right, Joel?
Well, and I just want to be clear, when we say codes, we're talking kind of BlackBerry, phone, and fruit. So codes meaning building codes, not necessarily coding.
Okay.
Yeah. So he means building codes. And Terry and I spend a lot of time in codes. I've spent a lot of time trying to feed it into various chat engines and trying to understand it better. You can't. So there are
But
restrictions.
if you laid down some conflicts that you wanted dealt with, it could go in and find those.
It depends on rights. So Trax is one of the tools that we use quite a bit. They need the rights to the various provincial and national codes in order for the AI to use it. So that can't be like there are limitations to this conversation. And actually that is more of the argument I'll make on whether or not we can fix it, is that there are things that underlay not just the practical nature of the language and the untying that we need to do, because that's all stuff absolutely the agents can help us with. It's stuff like duplication as a concept within the standards development organizations. We can't actually duplicate what already exists. We have to deal with the power structure that currently exists within the standards development system. So that's not an AI problem. That's a power structure problem. And so that's a little bit of how do we work with CSA to make sure that we make the kind of changes and we have the kind of influence to be able to input new code that will work for us. But that's a longer process. That's not us just fixing that today. But that's why we've got like a future NAFS groups to address how we look at that coding in the future.
But it'd be a waste to not use it as a tool.
I completely agree. And we do. Maybe not as well. We could probably get a good consultant to help us get much better at this.
You know anything? Oh.
There we go. Double the chances.
Well, now that I understood, I thought that we were talking about code. Yeah, no worries. It's my bad. So one thing, the example I used with the Pacific chapter is that in 2025 there was actually a funny event that happened where people would ask an LLM and they would be like, okay, so the car wash is 50 meters away from me. And should I drive there or should I walk? The LLM would answer, walk. It's very close. Why would you drive your car there? But what I wanna bring to you is that if you are using a generic solution to solve a specific problem, the chances of it working are 50-50. Because the LLMs that we have today are, well, not LLM, but let's say AI is trained on a data set, and it will use the learnings from that data set to come up with outcomes. So in the case of building codes, maybe the Trax solution has an inventory of data that actually allows it to have predictions or have suggestions, but I don't know the solution, so I can't really speak on that front.
So kind of the bigger question or the bigger fear that's out there, high level, is, do you feel, as an opinion, that AI will lead to the job displacement that people are catastrophizing?
It's funny because it's going to be the second time I share the productivity issue that we have in Canada. So we are ranked amongst the least productive countries in the developed world. And if we compare ourselves to our neighbors down south, they're 40% more productive than us. AI isn't here to replace people. It's actually here to increase our productivity levels. And we know that they're a bit more, let's say, blunt about using AI, but I think that we need to embrace it and start using it and leverage it to our favor.